Hey y'all, this is Shaquille the Holistic One Gilchrist, and it's late here where I'm living at, but God just put a word in my spirit, and I just want to share it with y'all. I'm gonna get straight to the point. So the scripture that I'm gonna be coming out of is Job chapter 8, and it starts with verse 7 when it says, "Your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous will your future be." So I'm gonna read that again. Your beginnings will seem humble, but so prosperous will your future be. So, y'all, when I got home from work, God has just been having me in like a lot of self reflection, just thinking about all the things that he's brought me from and all the things that he's brought me through. And this morning, when I was about to take a shower, the song came on by Yolanda Adams called "I'm Gonna Be Ready." I think it's that the title. I could be wrong, but y'all can correct me if I am. And it's like, in spite of what I see, you know what's best for me. And I don't know why, but that part just really just got me, and I had to play it again. I was listening to Pandora on my television. It got to me so good that I had to like actually go on YouTube and listen to it there so that I can run it back as many times as I wanted to. And then when I get home, about to take another shower, right? I'm about to get in the shower, and this song just kept popping up in my head of, "You don't know what I've been through. Let me explain my story to you." And I can't think of the artist right now, but I know I listened to it on my Apple Music while I was in the shower, and it broke me down so badly, y'all, in the shower, to a point where, in so many words, I just, before you knew it, I was getting weak in my legs, and I ended up getting on my knees, and I just started crying out to God. And I just kept hearing him say, "I do know where I brought you from. I do know. I do know." And he kept saying that, "I do know." And then he said, "Tell my people." He told me first, but then he told me to tell you all that you're broken, you're broke, and your rainy days are behind you. And the song that came to mind for that is, "Your latter will be greater than your past." Yep. And I just been having these songs in my spirit. Y'all know I'm not a singer, but it doesn't matter. It's just been the songs that God has been giving me. "And you will be blessed more than you can ask," right? And y'all, this scripture in Job chapter 8 and 7, it says, "Your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous will your future be." Your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous will your future be. Y'all, just want to tell y'all a little bit about myself, okay? I feel like I want to give you guys a testimony about some of the things I've overcome. Some of the things were very much so self-inflicted, but I'm going to be honest because I'm not ashamed of it, because I've healed from these things, right? So I lost my father in 2020, right? My father was an amazing man of God. He was a barber. He actually owned his barber shop. And the last day that he was working, he passed away. That was how much passion and grit he had about pursuing his purpose, right? But the reason why my dad had that grit and that grind was because my dad served a 15-year prison sentence, right, due to selling drugs. So, I was born in the crack epidemic, right? My father was a drug dealer, and my mom was a teen parent, but they instilled so much into me. And I just want to let y'all know that I grieved in 2020 when I lost my dad. Wow. You don't know what I've been through, right? In 2020 when I lost my dad, I had just became ordained as a minister. I was about to graduate with my master's. My dad passed away a month before I was about to get my master's degree. And then, I had just moved into my first apartment. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, right? The reality of the situation is that first apartment was where I grieved my father at, and it was where I went through some of the most hardest challenges of my life. Y'all, I'm 32 years old, right? And I moved out late. I'm kind of a late bloomer in a lot of things in life. And when I moved into that apartment, I definitely spent a lot of my time in that apartment in a dark place. I was grieving my dad, and my finances were not together. Self-inflicted stuff and some things that God just had to prune away from me. Y'all, when in 2022, I had to move back home with my parents. I had left the job because it was just, I was having some problems there, and I went to just do therapy as a contracting job. But the thing about it was that in therapy, as a therapist, you have to build up your clientele. You can't just become, a therapist overnight. And though I have a good clientele now, I had to hustle my way up. And I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I was, I got to say it. It's hard to say it, but I got to be honest, right? I'm being vulnerable in front of y'all. I was so behind in my rent that it's a wonder they did not evict me. It's a wonder. It is a wonder that them people did not evict me. So I prayed and I asked God, I said, God, can you please make a way for me to get out of this situation? I said, God, because the reality of the situation is that with me making half, not even half, under half, I went from making maybe, let's say $1,300 in a paycheck to only making $100 a paycheck. It was bad, y'all. And with me only making an amount, it had put me so behind in rent that I knew it was going to take a miracle to get me out of this situation. And then one day I get a call from my mom who say, Kiki, I think that you should move back home. Of course, my mom don't know that I'm like, I'll say the number, $5,000 behind in my rent. She don't know it. She does not know this. So she was like, I will pay for you to she didn't say I would pay. I'm sorry. She said you need to move back home. I moved back home with my parents, y'all. And in the process of me moving back home with my parents, that in and of itself was a blessing, but it was the season that I had to learn some lessons about myself that I didn't like. But God put me back on my feet and he got me stable employment again. But let me let y'all know something. The process of my mom said, you have a year to get yourself together and I'm going to allow you to stay here with me. She was like, but I want you to get your finances intact and all the other things. And that's what I did, for the most part. Y'all, I just moved into my apartment August the 3rd. Moving into this apartment was a faith walk. Okay? It was one of those situations where, if God didn't do it, I didn't know how it was going to get done. The reality of the situation is I didn't have the credit score. I was coming out of this bad financial situation. My money won't money in. All right. And on top of that, y'all, let's just be honest. How am I get approved when I got this previous rental history? No, the blessing was that it wasn't an eviction, but the reality of the situation, y'all, is most people, especially in the state that I live in, they not about to accept you into their apartment if you don't even pay your rent now. So let me tell y'all something, right, y'all? If you didn't even pay your rent from the previous place, excuse me. So I just want to let y'all know that God worked it out where I was approved and everything went so seamless, y'all. And my last apartment, it was decent, but it didn't feel like home. I was continuously having maintenance issues, but this apartment surpassed my expectations. Honestly, this is my first luxury apartment. When I went into this apartment, the first thing that I wanted to do was cry because I'm thinking to myself, Lord, is this the apartment that you're blessing me with? And y'all, I heard him say as I was pulling into my apartment, welcome home. I heard him say, welcome home. And it's funny, y'all. Let me talk to y'all about full circle moments. Blessed Baroko Mariki. Y'all, the name of my street is the same as the neighborhood that I used to live in. And God showed me I'm bringing it around full circle. So what the enemy meant for evil, God turned it around for my good. Before, when I started the podcast in 2020, It seemed like I was on an upswing. It seemed like I had so many viewers and I had so many people who was tuned in into the podcast. And after I lost my dad, I lost a little something of myself. I was grieving. I was depressed. Whew. Whew. I was experiencing anxiety. And my content went down because I was sad. And the name of my podcast is called The Whole Story Sundays because I want people to be whole, mind, body, and spirit. While also, so I come from the aspect of therapy and prayer can coexist. And I talk to people about the importance of getting therapy and the importance of, like of praying and finding you a good therapist, while also, getting a good healing and deliverance ministry and pouring out your heart on the altar, while also telling your therapist you got trauma and things that you need to work through and all those things. So it's called The Whole Story Sundays because also people who have been on the podcast, they share their whole story. They tell the truth, the raw, the uncut, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And God has been ministering to me about wholeness. And I asked God, I said, God, how am I going to minister to these people about wholeness if I don't even feel whole myself? I felt as if I was short at time with my father. I felt as if precious time that I needed to spend with him, I did not get the opportunity to spend it with him. Because he had served 15 years in prison and then he came home. And when he came home, I only got from 17 to 30. Because from 2 to 17, he was locked up. And I said, Lord, I don't feel whole myself. How am I about to minister to these people about being whole, mind, body, and spirit? How am I about to talk to them about the healing ship when I don't even feel like I'm on the healing ship right now? And the healing ship is just my catchphrase. It's called jump on the healing ship, which means, sail with me to wholeness, sail with me to inner healing, sail with me to a better relationship with God. But God, I don't even feel like I have that. My finances are struggling. I lost my dad. I'm moving back home with my parents, because, and I was just so down, y'all. And I've spent the last 3 years in and out of depression. But God told me in that shower tonight, you're broken, you're broke, and your rainy days are behind you. And this scripture says, your beginnings will seem humble, so prosperous will your future be. God has been telling me for the longest time, cry now, laugh later. God has been telling me for the longest time, your latter will be greater than your past. That I'm going to blow your mind. And I'm telling you guys that your latter will be greater than your past. You're broken, you're broke, and your rainy days are behind you. The best is yet to come. Your latter will be greater than your past. Some of you guys have endured way worse. It's so many stories that I can tell y'all about just the things I've endured, from repossessions, walking outside. I'm at work. And as I walk outside, my friend said, Jaquil, where's your car? Did somebody steal your car? Y'all, when I walked outside, they repossessed my car because I wasn't making the payments. This was a month before I was about to graduate with my bachelor's degree. I was 23 years old. Filing for a bankruptcy at 21 years old. I'm just being honest with y'all because we got to start being real and letting people know we've been through. So when I talk to y'all about spiritual warfare, I know it seems like I'm coming from a place where I don't know. I'm coming from a place where I know what it's like to be publicly humiliated. Can you imagine walking outside at work to a repossessed car for all your coworkers to see? But God said your latter will be greater than your past. God says your broken, your broke, and your rainy days is behind you. I don't know who I'm talking to. I don't know who needs to hear this, but I'm letting you guys know that I'm in this home, this apartment, and it says welcome. And when I came into this apartment to apply, I heard God say, "Welcome home." I had a dream the beginning of the year that I had moving boxes all around me, and I was in a home. I was in a house in my place that I am now. You know, because God was relocating me. I had another dream that I was giving my 2 weeks notice to go to a job that I really wanted, that I'm at now. And those things that I dreamed about the beginning of the year happened, and it came true. And my auntie, my niece, she told me one day, she said, my niece, who's 7 years old, said, "Aunt Kiki, how does it feel to get a new job and a new place all at the same time?" So, your latter will be greater than your past. Trust God, y'all. Trust God. I love y'all. Be blessed.